Welcome to Menopause Dinners. My name is Sarah and I'm your host. Not only is it me, but I have some incredible guests with me today. You can expect real stories, laughter, a few tears and some facts to help you feel not alone in this shitstorm called the menopause. So sit tight and let's ride this storm together. Welcome to Menopause Dinners. Hello everyone, I hope you're well. So today's episode, I must say, is another cracker for you. But it's a bit more of a difference because yet again we are back online so we can reach more people around the country. So that is something that we're doing as part of season 2. But before I introduce my guest to you, let me tell you what the subject is for today. So it is
nutrition in menopause and postmenopause.
Yes, that's right. We have it covered today. But before you think, hang on a minute, how about perimenopause? Don't you worry because it's coming later on this season. So sit tight for that. So today we are chatting all things to do with nutrition, menopause, post, especially the meno belly and how you lose that. How much information is there out there at the moment? There is too much. So we've got a lady here today who's going to tell us all about it and break it down. But before we meet her, let's talk about the structure for today. So part 1 will be me and my guest chatting. And in part 2, there will be a meal, of course, with a slight twist. Obviously, it's menopause dinners, so we need to have a meal. But like I said, there's a slight twist to it this time. Some of the usual ladies will be making an appearance, asking some questions and grilling our guests. So I can't wait for that. It's going to be really good. So let's talk about the definition of menopause and postmenopause. Well, let me explain to you that there are 2 stages, okay? Menopause is 1 year of no bleed. So you have your peri, which goes completely nuts. Everything's erratic. You're bleeding, you're not bleeding. It goes, it comes back, but then you go a whole year of no bleed, and that's classed as menopause. And that's when your estrogen starts to really drop, okay? And then once you've done that, you'll go into your postmenopause, which is where there's no bleeding at all after 1 year of no bleed. Makes sense? I hope so, because that is what we're talking about. But we'll go over it a bit more later, so don't worry. But we're obviously going to be covering what happens during this time, all the joys of getting older and how we can really help and support ourselves. Now, there is a joint webinar that I've just started and I'm going to be doing a little bit of podcast information on that as well. So if we don't touch on joint stuff today, don't worry, that is coming as well. Keep your eye on the socials for that. All right, that's enough talk from me. So I really now want to introduce my guest to you. So I'm going to welcome along Caroline.
Hi Sarah, thank you for having me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Indeed.
So welcome, Caroline. You know the drill. I've told you this before and everyone knows that listens to us regularly. We always have a 20-second quiz just to liven things up a bit. So let's do one and it's going to be 20 seconds on symptoms of postmenopause and menopause. All right. Just shout it out. We'll just go for it. Don't worry if we interrupt each other. You ready?
Yep, go for it.
All right.
Are you ready? 20 seconds start now.
Hot flushes.
Meno belly.
Night sweats.
Joint pain.
Insomnia.
10 seconds remaining.
Cystitis.
Dry skin.
Brain fog.
5.
Loss of libido.
4.
Ooh.
3.
Itchy vagina.
2. 1. Time's up.
Gosh, under pressure now.
Go on. Finish it off.
Mind blank.
There you go.
Sure,
Good job. I mean,
fog.
could have used brain fog really for that one.
I know, yeah. Perfect example, wasn't it, that?
It is. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. You know, I kind of like put the feelers out. I wanted to get some experts to come forward, and Caroline very graciously answered my little ad and said, I'll come along. And we chatted. And I think having someone on a podcast is really important, that you can gel. And I think we gelled straight away, which was really, really nice. So I would like you to, if it's okay, if you could just let people know a little bit about yourself, maybe your background and, a little bit about what you actually do. And I'll let you chat.
Fabulous, thank you. So yeah, I'm Caroline Hill and I'm a registered dietitian. I have been qualified for 19 years now, which can't be possible because I'm, only 21. But I, as most dietitians, started my career in the NHS and worked in the NHS for 6 years and then made the transition over into industry. So I worked for a global medical nutrition company, which produced products on prescription for people who maybe had feeding tubes or babies with cow's milk allergy. So a real mix of different products. So still worked as a dietitian, but supporting from an industry perspective, so behind the scenes with product development, marketing materials, and just making sure everything was clinically correct. And I did that for another 6 years. And then in 2018, I left that company and set up my own business, Caroline Hill Nutrition. And I've been doing that ever since. And I absolutely love it. I love having my own business and I love supporting the clients that I do. So in the last 8 years, I have specialised in women's health, specifically menopause. And that came about kind of twofold, really. One was the fact that a lot of the clients that were coming through my door were women of a certain age, and they might have been coming to me because they had gut issues. But actually, it transpired that they were also going through the menopause, and actually some of the menopause side of things was overlapping with their gut symptoms as well. Coinciding with all of that, I was also going on my own personal journey with trying to get pregnant. And I started to become a lot more aware of the impact of diet and lifestyle on hormones, which before, to be honest, I'd never really made that connection. When you're in your 20s, 30s, you don't really think about it unless you have health conditions. So yeah, it really brought it to the forefront of me, and it just made me realise how powerful nutrition is in women's health. And yeah, specifically now working with ladies going through menopause, which I absolutely love. They are a fantastic group of women to work with, largely because they've got to their point in their life where they're fed up of all the misinformation, all the dieting, and they just want to know what they can do to feel better and feel like themselves again. Every woman has their own journey going through menopause, but for some women it can be really, really horrendous. And yes, there are things like HRT that can support you with that, which can be amazing for some women. But for some women, they might not be able to take HRT, or they may not want to. So there is more of an emphasis then on the lifestyle side of things. So my aim really, when I support my one-to-one clients and my ladies going through menopause, is to make them feel supported. So using evidence-based science and nutrition advice that's also realistic and practical. I'm not the food police. I'm not here to say you can't eat X, Y, and Z. I'm here to educate and inform so you can make really good decisions once you understand why that is a good decision and how that's going to help your body. So yeah, I want to provide that realistic and practical solutions to make women feel amazing, make them feel more energized, get on top of their weights possibly, and actually start to love their body again and just feel so much better than maybe they have been feeling. Because I hear from a lot of women feeling absolutely horrendous, and nutrition for me is such a powerful part of what I call Clash Your Menopause Toolkit. So alongside all of the other aspects that we'll talk about tonight. So yeah, I'm just really passionate about making women actually realise that nutrition can play a big role, but it doesn't have to be about restriction.
I think that's a really good way to look at it, because a lot of women feel, and obviously we're going to talk about menobelly, that famous menobelly that everyone talks about. But yeah, you know, you can't go the whole of your life not having something. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm a complete foodie. Like, I love food. I love eating food, love talking about it, love cooking it. And I want women to feel like that. Like, one of the things that some of my ladies will say to me once they've been working with me, and it's always like music to my ears, is that they've fallen in love with food again. And they can go out and enjoy meals because they're not scared that they're going to make the wrong decision or choose the wrong food or break their diet.
That's
And
amazing.
it's amazing.
Once you break that diet, it's like, fuck it. Oh,
Yeah.
I have got a bleeper, but it is true though, isn't it? It is that, fuck it. Okay, let's just eat what I can now.
Exactly.
And that's not good
for
you.
Nourishment, not
good.
Not just trying to get through this period however we can, that just feels sometimes really unachievable.
So we're here today to talk about menopause and postmenopause, which so I'm postmenopause 3 years. And are you anywhere near your stages yet? Dare I ask?
Yeah, so I'm in perimenopause. I'm in the throes of it. And I think I have been probably about 3 years. And it took me 2 years to actually go to the doctors about it. Because I'd be working in this space, you kind of think, am I putting 2 and 2 together and getting 100?
Yeah.
And it was time for me over more than anything that made me realise and join all the dots up and go, actually, yeah, this is definitely the hormones that play a role.
Yeah, it's I think a lot with I think we've all been there with peri, where you just really don't see it. It's kind of invisible, isn't it? Until someone actually says to you, you know, you might be in your peri. So really good I like the way that you talk about your passion. That really comes across. That is so lovely, and all the women that come to you. So let's talk about someone that's in their menopause. One, obviously, being for confidentiality, we're not going to talk about anyone specifically, but let's say someone knocks on your door and says, Caroline, I'm in my menopause. I don't know what to do. There's so much information out there. How would you start off? What are the key factors? If I could say, I mean, it might be minimum 5. You might need more. But what would the 5 key things be that you would try to incorporate into someone's life to make their journey a little bit easier?
So the first thing that I'd want to understand is their starting points. So what are their symptoms and what are their main concerns? A lot of women will come to me saying, I'm really struggling with like menopause, like I want to lose the weight. And actually then you ask further questions and it turns out they've got a lot of other symptoms as well. So for me, that's really important because actually we can tackle all of it. It's not just about sorting out the one thing that, yes, that is their priority, but actually some of the other things might be feeding into that as well. So it's about supporting women to understand actually the connection. I alluded to at the beginning around kind of digestive health and kind of gut health. That's something that a lot of women going through menopause don't necessarily connect to being hormone related. So again, that's really important to try and ascertain exactly what's going on. So that's the first thing I always like to establish is kind of like a baseline. Where are we starting with? And then it's looking at what are they doing currently and what's working and what's not working. A lot of women I find, because we are as females bombarded from a very young age around thin is beautiful, you must be a certain weight to be attractive or to be successful in life, and this is what you always have to be striving for. And because of that, actually a lot of women will come through my door with a really distorted relationship with food because they have gone to a point of restriction and calorie counting and focusing on what they can't eat rather than what they can eat. So again, once I know where their perspective is from that side of things, we can look at, well, actually, is it as simple as making sure a woman is eating regularly? Again, a lot of women end up skipping meals because they think, well, I'm trying to lose weight, so if I eat less, that'll help. Because again, that's been really oversimplified, that if you need to lose weight, you move your body more and you eat less. Going through menopause, that no longer works. What worked in your 20s and 30s for trying to lose weight no longer works. That book you have to throw out of the window. And that doesn't mean that then nothing can change. It means that we need to find a new norm and work with the fact that your body has changed and the natural changes that are happening. So it'll be looking at someone's eating pattern and making sure that they're having regular meals. And not necessarily even at set meal times. So, 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, just eating regularly. And when I say regularly, I mean going for no longer than, I would say, 4 to 5 hours between meals or snacks.
Have you got people going longer than 40?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
Seriously?
I'll have women come in to me because they've heard that intermittent fasting is going to help.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're then depriving themselves until 12 o'clock, say, and then breaking their fast at 12 o'clock. And for most women, intermittent fasting won't work because they're not listening to actually their body.
Yeah.
They've heard that it'll work and it's worked for their friends. They're like, oh, I'll try this. But then they've got headaches, they've got energy crashes, they're absolutely ravenous when they come to eat, so then they're overeating and they're just working completely against their body. Whereas actually getting up and fueling your body and making a good nutritional food choice first thing in the morning actually sets the tone for the rest of the day. And what I tend to find is we're more likely are going to make better food choices throughout the day because they've started on a good footing. That's not to say intermittent fasting doesn't work for some women. For some it does, but it's about listening to your body.
I think there's sorry to interrupt. There's
No.
3 things from what you've just said that really kind of strike me in what you've just said. That the first thing is social media
Yeah.
has a lot to answer for because they're, like you said, the women that are coming to you have got so much information. I mean, to be honest, if I didn't have a business, I didn't have this, I wouldn't be on socials because I can't take it. I've got people come in, if you put this food with that food, with this food, you get this, you get that. Intermittent fasting, you do this, you do that. I mean, I'm lucky. I know a lot about the body. Got nutrition background, naturopathy background, so I know. But there are women that don't know, and they start looking at socials and they keep saying, if you do this fasting, it's good. But like you said, women don't understand that their bodies are changing, and that I loved what you said about in their 20s and in their 30s that they can't do what they done. And I would want to talk about that just briefly. So let's talk about why you can't do what you've done before. What's the main reason?
There's 2 key things that change once you start to enter perimenopause and then obviously menopause and beyond. And the first thing is, as your hormone levels start to fluctuate and ultimately start to decline, that influences your metabolism, firstly. So it influences your body's response to insulin, and it can make it can increase your risk or increase the chances of you developing insulin resistance, which means then that your body has to work a little bit harder at with the food that you're eating to actually utilize it for energy. With that insulin resistance, you're more likely to potentially store abdominal fat, so the meno belly. And then it's kind of like a vicious cycle because the more weight that you accumulate around the abdomen, the more you're more at risk of insulin resistance you become. There's metabolism slows down. Coupled with that, and I hate to say it because it's certainly we're not old at 50, but it's part of the aging process. So naturally, our metabolic rate also starts to slow down at around the ages of 50, which essentially means that the amount of calories that we need as a human being, as a female, to survive changes, and it comes a little bit lower. So if you don't change anything in your diet and lifestyle, most women will find that they start to gain a little bit more weight because the body's just going to hold on to it because it's not burning it off to the same extent. So some women can be really fortunate that they can just up their exercise, and that can kind of almost compensate for the changes in their metabolic rate slowing down. For a lot of women, though, that usually isn't enough, and it's usually because they come from a place where their diet and their food intake has just been all over the shop. And what I was alluding to before around maybe very disordered eating, never really eating possibly a normal, regular, healthy, balanced diet because they've always been jumping from one diet to the next, trying to find something that works. So they've almost lost that connection with actually what their body needs to then fuel itself sufficiently, but also to feel good, and then be able to then exercise to also feel good. So it's a bit of a two-pronged approach. And it can feel really depressing almost. And I don't want women listening to this thinking, oh gosh, is this just inevitable then, that this is the way it is and there's nothing that you can do about it? There is so much that you can do about it. The problem, I think, for a lot of women is that it can feel really frustrating because there is no quick fix. And that's what appeals with things like what we see on social media. I heard something today when I was learning about on another webinar about social media, and saying things on social media go viral for three main reasons. I can't remember all three of them, but two of them were it's sexy.
Ah,
And it,
I must remember that.
yeah, and it
Podcast with
places
nothing
you
on.
into a place of fear,
Right.
or it's scary.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as much as I would love it to be, eating a healthy, balanced diet and nourishing your body with good food and moving your body and managing your stress and all of those things that we'll talk about, it's just not sexy.
It's not sexy. I tell you, social media has gone nuts, I think, in the last maybe 3-4 years, where people that aren't nutritionists are just creating recipes, making them look sexy. I like that word. So women are like thinking, oh, I must eat like that. But that's actually causing more of a problem because these meals are not necessarily healthy. Skipping meals, obviously not good for you. So in an ideal world, what are we looking at? There's a few different types. There's someone that says every 5 hours. That's to give your body chance to metabolize the food that you've eaten. There's some that say every 3 to 4 hours to control your blood sugar levels. That to me that's only two scenarios. That is confusing already. So, what would you, if someone said to you, gave you A or B, what would you suggest?
So I would say you want to be aiming for, in an ideal scenario, 3 meals a day with no longer than a 4 or 5 hour gap between meals. If for whatever reason you know that you're going to end up having a gap longer than 4 or 5 hours, that's where you need to be introducing a snack. And a lot of women get really scared of snacking because they think, well, surely that's bad, is snacking, or I shouldn't be snacking, I shouldn't be having that mid-afternoon whatever. And that's more calories. But actually, we've got to remember that all the food that we consume isn't just being used by our body to move our body, it's being used by our brain as well. So you might find that your hunger levels can vary on a daily basis, particularly if you maybe, we now live in an era where we do a lot of hybrid working. So maybe you're at home and you're not as hungry as the days that you're in the office, or vice versa. And it might depend on the demands that are placed on you on that particular day from your work. And if you've been in back-to-back meetings all day, you're going to have used a lot more brain power. So what you ate at breakfast time or at lunchtime will have already been utilised, even if it was a really healthy, well-balanced meal. And we can talk about what that looks like. But yeah, I would say then you need to be introducing a snack in between. And again, we can touch on what that looks like as well. This belief of
sorry,
less is better
yeah.
isn't the case. It's going to work completely against you.
So with the women that are coming to you, are any of them kicking and screaming, I don't want to eat 3 meals or snack a day. I just want to do what I've done before. Do you kind of get that at all? Or do you get women come and they're very like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
So most of the women who come to me are like, I'm fed up of feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm fed up of all the noise. I'm fed up of hearing what everyone else is doing and it not working for me. What do I need to do? And that's why they're coming to me, because they want that personalised one-to-one advice. So I will talk through, the principles of getting that regular eating pattern as being a really core fundamental. And for some women, that can be really difficult, because if they've not been having, say, breakfast for ages, that might feel really, really difficult to start doing. And then it's about understanding why they don't eat breakfast. Is it because actually they're not hungry and they can't eat breakfast till 10 o'clock? That's fine. Breakfast can be at 10 o'clock. It doesn't have to be within half an hour of waking or anything like that. It's again it's listening to our own needs and what works for us. Coupled with that, it might be that, and this I see a lot with menopausal women, is that they sort everyone else out at breakfast time. Then, they might have kids, so they're sorting the kids out, getting them off to school or college or wherever. And then they're not thinking about themselves. And then they're rushing off to their job. So the first time that they're thinking about having something to eat is at 10:30, 11 o'clock, when they're absolutely ravenous. So sometimes it's about looking about what's happening in women's lifestyles that are maybe making them make the choices and the decisions that they're making. More often than not, once a woman can understand why it will help them, and they can look at what their habits are at the moment and why that might be working against them, usually most women are able to implement changes to find something that works for them.
Because if someone's been doing it for so long, they're obviously going to think it's worked. I actually spoke to someone the other day and I asked them a question about, I saw that they were eating, it was something like midday, and I was like, I'm just having my breakfast. And I just looked at them and I was like, you're just having your breakfast? And she's like, yeah, I'm just having my breakfast. I'm like, she said, yeah, I'm having it now because over the weekend I had a heavy weekend, so I don't want to eat much today. And I'm just thinking, are we still in that mindset?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that, because that's when your body's kind of like going, I want more. Give me more, give me more, give me more. I find it really interesting that there's a lot of women out there maybe don't have that information, and maybe that, like you said, they've just put themselves in so many situations for their family. They've put themselves last, and then finally they're thinking, hang on a second, I can't keep up with that 2 meals a day. And when they hit their menopause, and it's unfortunate really that's I suppose it's better late than never, but at the same time it's kind of like, it's a shame really that they've not put themselves first before. But let's talk about the type of food that we want to kind of get people to eat. So you said earlier, no kind of food is like, you can't say, can't have that.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about mixture. Let's talk about the food that we really must have, in the fact because it's either good in omegas or stuff like that. And then we can branch off to the gooey stuff. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, go for it.
So the one thing that I want everyone listening to take away from today is that a healthy, balanced diet is essentially focusing on 3 different food groups. So if you think about either your diet on a whole or the meal that you're having in front of you, you want half of that plate to be made up of fruits or vegetables. And then the other half is split equally between protein and carbohydrates. So a quarter of a lean protein source and then a quarter of a carbohydrate source. And the reason that those proportions are important is each of those food groups does different things and contributes different things to the diet. So if we look at food, fruits and vegetables first, the reason that they should make up the bulk of our plate is that they are low in fat, so great from a calorie perspective. They're a rich source of vitamins and minerals, but they're also a great source of fibre. And fibre is what helps to fill you up. So it adds bulk to a meal, but actually helps to keep you fuller for longer. So tries to prevent those either energy crashes or cravings that sometimes occur between meals, because the fibre slows down the rate at which your food is absorbed by the body and helps to keep your blood sugar levels nice and steady. So that's your fruit and vegetables. Your protein, so that should be a quarter of your plate or your bowl or whatever. And it's a lean protein source, whether that's something like meat or fish, eggs, or your plant-based proteins. That could be beans, pulses, nuts or seeds. And the key with those foods is have as much variety as possible within those protein food sources, because again, different protein food sources will provide different benefits beyond just protein. So for example, things like salmon and mackerel are classed as oily fish. They're a source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are really good for brain health, but they're all really good for heart health as well, which is really important for the female, particularly post-menopause. But again, things like nuts and seeds and beans and pulses are also a great source of fibre as well. So protein helps largely to support our muscles, and it's really important once we hit menopause and beyond that we preserve as much as we can do our lean muscle mass. And the way to do that is make sure we're having adequate amounts of protein in the diet. But protein, a little bit like fibre, is also filling. So again, helps you to feel fuller for longer. And then the remaining quarter, those carbohydrates, this is the one area that a lot of women really struggle with, because they have been led to believe that carbs are the devil and, you know, we don't eat carbs because they're bad for us. Carbs aren't bad for us. It's about the right type and the right quantity. So carbohydrates are really important because ultimately they are made up of single units of glucose, simple sugar. And that is the main energy source for our body and our brain. So it's the most readily available source of energy for our body when we eat carbohydrate containing foods.
Caroline, can I just stop you there? When you say simple sugars, we just want to make sure that if someone's listening and they think, oh, sugar, we're not talking about that, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So then with your carbohydrates, it's about the type rather than necessarily banning all carbohydrates. And you can group carbohydrates into two main categories. Your refined carbohydrates, so these are things like your white breads and your white cereals, predominantly. And then the other half, or the other split, is your complex carbohydrates. And these are your whole grain, your brown, your seeded types of bread, cereals and grains. And it's the whole grain carbohydrates that you want to focus on including in your diet, because the whole grain aspect of them means that they are higher in fibre, which means that they get broken down by the body really nice and slowly and steadily, and release that glucose into the body to keep your blood sugar levels nice and steady. So then also you feel fuller for longer and you don't get these energy dips. So like I said, there's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. It's about quantity and the type. And if you think about when we typically plate up a dish, and I always use a pasta-based dish like spaghetti bolognese as a perfect example, because I'm not about weighing out every single food that you eat. I don't want women to become obsessed. But I think it's useful with things like pasta, because if you pour dried pasta or dried rice into a pan, I don't know that much, so you tip some more in, you cook it, and it trebles in size. So then you plate it up and you're like, oh, I might as well eat all this because it's a waste otherwise. And before you know it, actually, even though there's nothing wrong with that food itself, you've just eaten far too much of it. And also, again, thinking about something like, say, spaghetti bolognese, the first thing that we do when we're plating out that dish is we put the pasta on the plate first, we put our bolognese sauce on top, and then, you know, if we're feeling like we're going to be really, really, really good and nourish our bodies, we might think about adding some salad onto that. But if you think about what I've talked about in terms of the balance of your meals and those different proportions, we're doing it the complete wrong way around. We should be thinking about what we're putting the fruits or vegetables on our plate first, and then the other things on around that.
Interesting. Now you talked about fibre, and
Yes.
this is interesting because let's talk about cholesterol.
Yes.
Okay, because cholesterol rises in menopause, which we know, especially menopause post. And I actually read something the other day about women that lose weight very fast actually end up, to begin with, high cholesterol. And I don't know if you know about this. Yeah, women end up having their cholesterol, they think it's going to be low because they've lost weight, but actually it still remains high. And the key is to do with the fibre. And a lot of women that are taking these jabs, for instance, that aren't having enough fibre in their diet because they're focusing on, what can I eat, or, small foods, they end up with high cholesterol. So I just thought I'd just mention that because obviously cholesterol is quite key as we get older.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, rapid weight loss doesn't necessarily support whole body health. And I think that's why it's really important to, as much as we can do, and it is really hard for women because of that, what I've said about previously, about being bombarded with that belief that being a smaller weight is better and that's the ideal. But actually, we need to try and disconnect weight from health, because being of a low weight doesn't mean that you're in perfect health.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that actually we are putting into our body the foods that are going to support our health. And that naturally will then start to displace poorer food choices that then work against us when we are trying to lose weight. So when we talk about what good nutrition looks like for heart health, it's about making sure that you're having plenty of fibre in your diet, and particularly things like oats are really, really helpful because they contain a component called beta glucan, and that's been shown to be really effective at reducing cholesterol levels. So that morning bowl of porridge can be a really great way to start your day to support not only your overall health and trying to lose weight and making sure you're nourishing your body, but actually really support your heart health as well. And then you think about how to make that even better. So you could add some nuts and seeds into that. And again, nuts and seeds are a really great source of healthy fats, which will support with cholesterol lowering as well. And they're also just a great source of protein, as we've already alluded to, that helps to support the overall body as well. And then you could even add things like some soya yogurt into that. So soya-based foods, so things like soya yogurts, edamame beans, tofu, are all great food sources for women going through menopause for two different reasons. One, they're a source of phytoestrogens, which can, for some women, help reduce the incidences of hot flushes. But two, they are really good for helping to lower cholesterol levels.
Perfect.
Because they are naturally low in fat, because they're plant-based food sources. They're typically a great source of fibre as well.
So regardless of soya, obviously if someone's had cancer, there's obviously studies to say that they should kind of avoid that. But there's a lot of information out there. So we may have some women that are listening that are actually in that stage. So what would you suggest with something like that?
So there's no set recommendation around anyone who has had specifically hormone-driven cancers that you need to be limiting or restricting your soya-based food intake. The caution, I would say, comes down to supplements. So things like isoflavone supplements and your menopause type supplements that are promoted to help with addressing some of the symptoms, because they contain far higher doses than you would be consuming in a dietary form from those foods. And actually, interestingly, there is some really strong evidence to support the fact that soy-based soy-containing foods can actually reduce your incidence of developing breast cancer. So it's a real like cutting edge sword in a way, because I think some of the information that has historically led to maybe beliefs around I have to avoid these foods completely is based on old science and old evidence, and actually we know now the risks are far greater, like I say, with some of these supplements that are in far greater quantities. I would say if it's something that a woman is really concerned about, I would get them to talk to their medical team,
Definitely.
and get their perspective on it. Because actually then you can look at a woman's diet on a whole and look at maybe other areas and other foods that maybe could still support if they didn't feel comfortable adding those in.
So we've got to talk gooey stuff, and I've just got to start off by saying banoffee pie. I think it's banoffee pie. There's a trend going on at the moment that if you take Greek yogurt and you put these biscuits in, you can make this banoffee pie. And other people are saying, just excuse my French, just eat the fucking pie.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah, don't make it, because
yeah.
So if we have we've got sweet treats, we've got desserts. What are we looking at? What percentage are we looking at in like 80-20, 20,
Yeah.
like, not 80
so the rule
like
that
sweet
I
treats.
live by and encourage all my women to live by is the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time we nourish our body and give our body everything that it needs. So all that goodness, all that colour from fresh foods and vegetables, cooking from scratch where we can do. And this isn't about being perfect. It's about just giving our body the best foods that we possibly can do in that moment in time. And then 20% of the time we can let our hair down. And the reason that split works is that food isn't just about nutrition. Obviously, I'm a dietitian and I love the fact that food is about nutrition, but actually, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a complete foodie. One of my favourite things to do is meet up with my friends and put the world to right over coffee and cake.
I remember you telling me that when we chatted.
Yeah. That fills my cup. That helps me survive parenting. It helps me get through a tough day. It's the social connection, and food is really important for that. And as women, we shouldn't be fearful of, oh, well, I can't have that piece of cake because I'm on a diet.
Yeah.
Is just the wrong way that we talk to ourselves.
But that is social media. That is the way we've been brought up. Whatever. There's just so much.
And it's really sad, because then a lot of women are so fearful of doing the wrong thing. When actually, if we completely take that pressure off ourselves and go, you know what, I'm going to focus on eating as well as I can do. And then every so often, I'm going to have some cake, or I'm going to go out for a meal. And I don't need to worry, because I know that the rest of the time
you're going to be on it.
I'm nourishing my body.
Yeah.
And what you tend to find, there's always a bit of a transition. Women always tend to say, oh, I'm finding this really difficult because I feel like I'm going from not allowing myself those foods. But actually, if the emphasis is on the positive and putting the right foods in and nourishing your body with the right foods, you naturally start to not want those foods anyway.
Yeah. It's when you can't have
biscuits
it, right?
and all of that, when you're using them as a source of fuel, they're just feeding your cravings. That's all they're doing.
And
whereas
cravings,
if you're eating well,
and
get rid of those cravings.
Cravings in menopause and post are in perimenopause they're quite high, but I can definitely say that for me, when I entered my post, they were kind of quite there actually. And also, I've got to talk about this before we end part one. I want to talk about mood and food because from my own experience, I know that when my mood flattened at the beginning of my post, and I've always been quite a healthy person. I love healthy food, but my God, I was such a garbage person because I couldn't cope with the flatness. I didn't understand it. I understand it. I know about the body. I understand it, but I couldn't physically see my own self. And so if we could talk to like Sarah 3 years ago, for instance, and someone that is going, maybe been like me back then, where they start to get flat and they're using the food to help them through that flatness. What can we do to try and support that nutritionally?
Yeah, and that's a really good point because it is really, really difficult. Even when you know about your body, know about health, when you're in the throes of it, it's so difficult to see, what's the saying, like
Yeah, in
the
front of
fog
your
through the
face. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
trees or whatever. I can't think
Yeah.
what the saying is. But it just feels so difficult. And I think the first thing to start to recognize is where you are getting tripped up, because once you start to build that connection, then it's easier to starting to do something about it. And as I mentioned earlier, this isn't about being perfect, because life isn't perfect. As much as we would love to feel like we're fully in control of life,
Yeah.
and as social media leaves us to believe, life isn't. There'll always be something that is thrown at us. And obviously during menopause, and for some women where it is really, really difficult, it's sometimes just about surviving that day and getting through that day. And this is where it's about having in your toolkit, in your ammunition, things that you're going to fall back on when you are feeling really flat, where you're feeling really fatigued.
Yeah.
Maybe you've also had a really bad night's sleep
Yeah.
because you are
Yes. And
not
that
in the
makes
best
you
place.
worse, isn't it? The next day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to make the best decisions. I know that if I've had a bad night's sleep, I'm not getting up and thinking, "Oh, I'll make that really healthy breakfast." I'm thinking,
I
I
want
want
that. I
pancakes
want
now, and I
that.
want all the
Yeah, yeah,
chocolate
yeah.
sauce on it, like
Yeah.
because you just want to feel better,
Yeah.
and you think that those foods are going to do that because they're also a quick energy boost. So it's about things like when if you are feeling well, and when have those good periods like batch cooking, so you've got things in the freezer, so that the temptation to then say order that takeaway
Yeah.
is reduced, because actually you'll save some money
It's
by just
there.
opening your freezer and getting
It's
something
there.
out. I'm a big fan of things like, the Charlie Bingham ready meals, or you can now get there's another brand called Cook, isn't there, that do frozen ready meals. They are, again, and this comes back to all the noise that exists on social media about we should be cooking from scratch and we should not be having any ultra processed foods because it's going to kill us. It's about context. And there is nothing wrong with food that has been cooked in a kitchen that then has been frozen,
Yeah.
that you then purchase. Just have a look at the ingredients, and if everything in there is what you would make in your home, but someone else has just done that privilege for you,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. And again, they can be really useful to just have a supply of, so that you can just get through that period. And
Oh,
then it's just
yeah.
about how can you make them maybe one step better. So it might be that you have some frozen veg in and you just make some frozen veg with them. Um, and reaching out for support.
Yeah.
If you have family at home, leaning on them, it feels really hard saying that, doesn't it? Because as women, we maybe have got used to just being the primary carer, and we do everything, and we don't like to ask for help. But sometimes actually that's the best thing that we can do for
No,
ourselves.
speaking
Is
out is really vital. And I think
Yeah,
actually, and I've said this many a time on these podcasts, the people around you can see you a lot clearer than what you can.
yeah,
And so if you reach out to someone, they're going to say, you know what, I know, which will take you back. But oh my God, we could talk forever.
I know, couldn't we? Feel like we've
But
only just scratched the surface
we
as well.
have, but that, you know what that means? You're going to have to come back again.
Fabulous. I'll be back.
But
You'll be sick of me.
so I'm just going to wrap up for part one. And wow, that was a really, really good part one to this podcast. So I just want to talk about part two. We're going to be carrying on this subject, but obviously it wouldn't be menopause dinners without the food. There is a twist this time, and I'm going to explain to you when you come back for part two, but you don't want to miss it. It's going to be good. The menopause ladies are here. They're going to be hitting Caroline with some questions. They've been listening in, so I'm sure they're going to ask her lots of questions. And so you definitely want to come back. Now, if you do want to be a guest, apart from Caroline, obviously, who's got the experience of the job that she does, but you can be a guest on here. You don't necessarily need any podcasting experience. If you just want to chat about your own menopause, postmenopause, perimenopause, then that's fine. We just want people that are honest and open and able to connect, and that's what it's all about. So you can get in touch via the platforms, listening, emails, whatever you want to do, really. But don't forget, after we've got part 1 today, part 2 released on Thursday, and then we've got a break for 2 weeks. Okay, I need a rest. I'm going away, but we're coming back. But I want to say thank you to our wonderful guest, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
We will see you again in part 2.
Looking forward to it.
So Caroline's details will be on all platforms in case you want to get in touch with her. Remember to like, rate and subscribe and join any of the platforms to let us know we're doing a good job. Don't forget there's a monetisation button. As we're now non-profits, every little bit helps. So before you go, one final thought. Menopause sucks, but with friends it sucks a whole lot less. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Menopause Dinners is sponsored by Fitness Therapy for You. Information we share on here, food and supplementation, is actually today from a nutritionist, so it's fine. But if you are suffering from a medical condition, then please get medical advice before trying any supplementation. We'll see you next time.